Good afternoon. My name is David Lohman. I'm the incoming county commissioner for the 4th District, which includes Patterson Elementary School, where I have two grandchildren that go to school here. I'm actively involved in our community and want to encourage all of you to do more reading. Today we'll be reading from The World According to Humphrey, and I'll be reading chapter 3. We'll start with The Two Faces of Miss Brisbane. That week was a busy week, but I learned a lot. I learned all the capitals of the United States. I didn't say I remembered them all, but I learned them all. I learned about how water changes from solid to liquid gas. I learned about to subtract fractions. I learned something else, something very weird. There are two Mrs. Brisbanes, and I thought one Miss Brisbane was way too many. The first Miss Brisbane is a good teacher, just like Aldo said. But she's better than Miss Mack was at getting AJ to lower his voice. She's better at getting Heidi to raise her hand before she blurts something out loud in class. Of course, nobody could get speak up, say, to raise her hand or to blurt anything out loud. Say is so quiet and gentle, and she never gives an answer. If the teacher calls on her, she stares down at her desk without saying a word. But when it's Say's turn to clean my cage and feed me, she holds me in her hand so gently. I feel like I'm floating on a cloud. "Hello, Humphrey," she whispers. "Your fur is so beautiful." I always feel calmer when Say holds me. She's so nice. I wish Miss Brisbane would leave her alone. Miss Mack hardly ever called on Say once she realized how shy she was, but Miss Brisbane calls on her all the time. She won't leave her alone. "Say, speak up, please. I know you have an answer," she'd say while Say stared at the top of her desk. And if she were watching a TV show there, but I was shocked when Miss Brisbane got annoyed with Say, sweet, shy Say, and said, "You will stay in during recess." Say still stared down without moving a muscle. But a minute later, I saw something wet drop from Say's eye to the tabletop. I hated Miss Brisbane. Of course, I don't go out to recess. In fact, I'm glad, since it's a great time to catch up on my sleep. So I was there when Miss Brisbane talked to Say, and I was all ready to squeak up on her behalf if necessary. Miss Brisbane brought a stack of papers to the table and sat down across from Say. "Say, you think I'm being mean to you, don't you?" Say slowly shook her head. "No, ma'am." I hardly noticed. My eyes, yes. But no one was looking at me. "But I wouldn't call on you if I didn't know that you know the answers," the teacher explained. "Look at your papers and tests. You get hundreds on everything. Spelling, science, geography, arithmetic. Your vocabulary is excellent. But I've never heard you speak. Can you tell me why?" I checked my notebook and I was pretty impressed. I only got an 85% on the last vocabulary test. This girl is smart. Say still did not speak. "Say, I'm going to have to send a note home to your parents. Maybe they can help me figure out what to do," said Miss Brisbane. Say looked up, very frightened. "No, please," she said. Miss Brisbane looked surprised. She reached over and patted Say's arm. "I won't send a note now, if you'll promise to try." Say looked back down at the desk and nodded. "I tell you what, I won't call on you if you promise that someone within the next week you'll raise your hand on your own and answer a question. Is that a deal?" Say nodded, very slowly this time. "You have to say it," Miss Brisbane told her. "Deal," Say whispered. "Terrific," said Miss Brisbane, smiling. "Now, how would you like to erase the board for me?" Say jumped up and hurried to the board. All of a sudden, in room 26, like to erase the board for some reason. Miss Brisbane was sure hard to figure out. She hadn't been mean to say at all. She just did what a teacher is supposed to do. I liked this Miss Brisbane. I even liked the pink blouse she had on. But at the end of the day, when the students were gone, the second Miss Brisbane come back, the really scary one. She straightened up the room and came over to the window to close the blinds. I could only hope that Aldo would open them for me later. She looked down and saw that the table around me was messy. The bag of shavings used for my bedding had torn into bits of litter were scattered all over the table. Garth had done the cleaning and left my lid off my treats box. The whole table looked untidy. "Good grief," said Miss Brisbane in a very unhappy voice. I've decided to take a spin on my wheel. Usually that cheers people up, but not Miss Brisbane. She started to clean the table, getting the paper towels and cleaning spray, and muttered to herself the whole time. "Not my job," she grumbled. "These children are not responsible. All I need is somebody else to take care of. Some wrote it." Nobody says wrote it quite the way Miss Brisbane does. Then she looked down at me with angry eyes and said, "You are a troublemaker. And somehow I'm going to get rid of you." Then she grabbed her purse and her papers and stormed out of room 26. For once I didn't mind being left alone. I didn't even mind the tick, tick, tick of the clock. I was just glad that the second Miss Brisbane was gone. I was worried about what she'd said, but I kept my mind occupied by practicing my vocabulary words until the light was completely gone. If Seth got 100% correct, why couldn't I? Then I sat and waited. Suddenly, bright lights my eyes as the door swung open and a familiar voice roared, "Never fear! Aldo's here!" Aldo rolled his cart over to my cage and put his face right down next to mine. "How's it going, Humphrey?" he asked. I tried squeaking out my story, but Aldo didn't quite catch what I was saying. "Whoa, pal, something's got your tail in a tizzy." "Well, this should cheer you up." Aldo reached into a brown paper bag, pulled something out, and dangled it in front of my cage. "Something to gnaw on, little buddy?" he said, opening the door. "Joy, joy, joy. A tiny dog biscuit. One of Miss Mac's friends gave me one of these once. You can crunch on it forever. Ha ha! Suddenly there's a smile on your face." Aldo beamed with pride. "Now I'll clean this room real fast so we can eat our dinner together." I never saw anybody move as fast as Aldo. He turned the music up full blast. Then he mopped and polished and swept and scrubbed, and I nibbled and gnawed on my biscuit. When he had finished, Aldo pulled up a chair next to my cage and took out a big sandwich. "You know, Humphrey, some folks might think I'm crazy talking to a hamster, but you're better company than a lot of people I know here. Have a nice salad. It's good for you." He tore off a tiny piece of lettuce and pushed it through the wires of my cage. "Thank you," I squeaked. "You're welcome," said Aldo. "So what were we talking about last night?" "Oh yeah, loneliness. You know, I have friends, Humphrey, but during the day, I'd like to do something. Go bowling, or to a movie or something. They're at work, and when they want to do something, I'm at work. Of course, there's the weekend, but I usually see my family, you know. My brother and his family, my nieces, nephews. I got a big family." Suddenly, Aldo bopped the side of his head with the palm of his hand. "Whoa, Humphrey, I never told you. My nephew, he's in your class. Richie Rinaldi. He sits over there." He pointed to the far side of the room. He always has the neatest desk in class. He's better, or he'll hear from his uncle. Do you know him? Of course, I squeaked. Repeat that, please, Richie. One of the nicest boys in class. But he mumbled a lot and usually had to repeat something 2 or 3 times to be understood. Aldo crunched his bag and tossed it into the trash can. Well, I'm out of here. You know, they got a frog in room 16, but he's not good company like you are. He sings nice, though. Sing? I'll sing for you, Aldo, I thought. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Don't worry. I don't like him nearly as much as my friend, Aldo said. He opened the blinds to let the light in. Just as we was going out the door, Aldo said, See you next week, Humphrey. Next week? A cold chill come over me. Tomorrow was Friday. When Miss Mac was in room 26, she took me home for the weekend. But if Miss Brisbane didn't take me home, I'd have 2 very long days and nights with no one, not even Aldo, to feed me or chat with me. Even worse, what if Miss Brisbane did take me to her house? What fate would await me there? I had plenty to keep me busy the rest of the night worrying about Miss Brisbane and how she planned to do away with me. Miss Mac, please come back. The end of chapter 3.